Welcome back. Welcome to the Lynn
You got me in
Serrano
mid-sip.
and Scott Jones. And all our friends are here, Scott.
All of our friends are here, as it always is on Tuesday night. We appreciate everybody for coming out and sharing our appreciation for having you guys here. Is exactly what we're going to be talking about tonight. Is you know that acknowledgement of people that impact us or that are a big part of our lives, and not waiting till it's too late to say what you want to say and express how you feel about people. Lynn created this topic. I'm so glad you did too, Lynn, because I've had two significant people in the last 3 weeks that we've lost, and one of their funerals was today. Unfortunately, I could not be there because it was out of town, and my business partner and I was flipped the coin which one of us is going to go, and she went. But this is a guy we've known for over 44 years who helped get us all sober, and I mentioned him last week, Denny Tuff, and but anyway, there was a lot of people, and the shame was, when he passed, he was in a nursing home. And all the people that he helped in his life, 90% of them never visited, never called, never wrote. And I think we have to remember sometimes expressing the impact, it isn't so much about us and us being able to say what we want to say. It's about these people have earned this. They've earned our respect and our admiration and our love. And that we almost have a responsibility to acknowledge them later. For them, because I can't imagine if everybody disappeared, no matter what kind of person I tried to be, if everybody disappeared at the end and nobody was there to say the things that needed to be said. So this is really an important topic. And I can tell you, as one person who did a whole lot of turning people off and disappearing in his life, once I moved from a city, you were all dead to me, and I never went backwards. And now I look back on my life and I see people who have friends from high school or junior high, or with the exception of Lynn, I've got nobody. I don't remember anybody. I don't have any long-term relationships from my childhood, even from my teens, my 20s, and my 30s. I have no relationships from that time in my life. So it's a shame. And I think it's something that we all need to pay attention to. And I think that possibly my growth might have been even better had I brought some of these people along in my life. Now, not everybody's going to come with you on your journey, but there's many that we leave behind that we probably shouldn't. So, Lynn, is that kind of where you wanted to go with this?
Yeah, this has always impacted my life since I was 7 years old, and I lost my grandmother, and then at 14 I lost somebody that in ninth grade in a car accident. And to always see all the people with the regrets that they have for not sharing what that person means for them. It's really, really been something to me. It's been an impact to me to say, I want to let everybody know how I feel. I appreciate them and I care about them. But lately, a lot of people close to me, and you're one of my friends that are close to me, and a lot of other my friends have lost really close friends to them. And they're kicking themselves in the ass because they didn't do the one final, we just drifted, we didn't communicate, and just the regrets and just and I'm just saying, like, send a text or send a message in Messenger or whatever, because it always, I don't care who you are, when somebody passes, you automatically think, when's the last time I actually connected with them? And when you go look at your text and see that it's been a year or 2 years ago, right, or this or that, and you did, and I guess back in the day we used to send, Christmas cards, so at least you got something in the mail once a year or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, we just don't do that, and then we have the regrets. And it's just some people that we do have our own lives and we get busy and everything, but I think it's just important to I think the pandemic should have showed people too the fact that we don't know how much longer we have here, and that
Absolutely.
we should just take that moment. So,
and I got to ask this. I got to ask Jacques. Thanks for joining us today, by the way.
Yes.
Jacques was on my show last week with
yes,
Mary
I saw that. He was very good. Very good.
Excellent guy. But I've got to ask this question. Along with this, has the ease of technology, the ease of communication, actually made communication? Has it made us more lazy? I think people stayed more in touch when they were sending Christmas cards, writing letters, making long distance calls. Remember those days when you had to figure out, can I afford to call this person?
And pay, yeah.
And, or even, it's like even some states within the same state, you were paying long distance. All those hurdles and people stay in touch. And now communication is so easy, but we seem to.
We take that for granted too, though. That's the
problem. And then we post them because it's so freaking easy. Maybe we've lost how important it is. It's become less important. I don't know, and I'm wondering if maybe that's got something to do with it. But let's hear from our peeps here. Great
Mr.
group
Scott,
of people.
You're Mr. Two Hips.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's really interesting. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the only thing that we've learned to take for granted in this time as things have gotten easier. Social manners and all of that, social graces have deteriorated over time, unfortunately. And very fortunate, a gentleman that I helped launch a company with in 1994 that I was with for 10 years. I was 10 years into a 5-year plan. We were going to be gazillionaires after 5 years, and we still hadn't taken it public. But we actually, about 5 days before Christmas, we were at the company Christmas party, and I'd left the company 20 years ago. And we were talking about how excited he was looking to come into 2023. And we just had this amazing, and he said, "Thank you for still believing in me." And I said, we always knew it was going to work. It was just a matter of when. And 5 days later, he dropped over dead. Wow. And so, but we had that conversation of belief in what we had started and what was going on and all those kinds of things. So that's one thing that popped into my mind. I'm very grateful that we had that opportunity just a few days ahead of that. And then at his memorial, I rekindled relationships with people I hadn't seen in 20 years since I left that company. And it was absolutely amazing. And we were all talking about how old everybody else got. So it was a lot of fun to do that. But one of the things that I believe to be one of the most special things that I've had the opportunity to do is Kyle Wilson, who was Jim Rohn's business partner for 19 years. When Jim was diagnosed that he had basically had a terminal situation and he just wasn't going to last all that long, Kyle put together probably about 100 of us speakers, and we had the opportunity to do a tribute video to Jim Rohn prior to his passing. And it was one of the most special things I've ever had the opportunity to be part of, because everybody got to share exactly how much he meant to everyone that he had impacted. And it was really powerful. And I think back to that day and I go, why don't we do more of that? I know that Jim, as it was presented to him, just absolutely loved every bit of it. And just such a special moment. But just the honor of being able to be part of that tribute video was something I'll always hang on to. And something, quite frankly, I think that we should, I think we should put groups of friends together and do videos for other friends.
That's what I'm talking about.
Let them know how much they mean to us going forward, because that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely. And here's the most shocking part. After 20 years of not working somewhere, you still get invited to their Christmas parties. I was working places while I was still working there. They weren't inviting me. So I don't know how you pulled that off. That was great.
Oh, well, I love that.
Really like my wife. That's the
that's good.
And you knew it, so you showed up. Yeah.
That's right.
All good points, though, Scott. Absolutely.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's why I said I even some people know this, some people don't, but and I don't do it every year, but I mean, every now and then I'll send a personal video for happy birthday, or I'll do a little video for people because that's going to outlast me. But then leaving tokens and pieces of me for them, you know, and since I almost died, I mean, hemorrhaged to death when after having my daughter and whatnot, you know, I've just taken it not for granted every day that I'm here. And so I just want everybody to know how much I love them, how much, and this goes for everyone here, how much I love you, how much your impact, how much you mean to me. And I just focus on the love of everybody. You can find good in it. You can find a piece of good and even on a rotten apple. Okay. So, I mean, just dwell on that. Give love. I mean, like they say, you get back what you give. So why not keep giving out more love and more stuff? Anyways, I'm gonna throw Barry in the midst there.
This is where Barry acts shocked, like, "Oh wow, I got to talk."
What? It's my turn.
I was sitting in the corner minding my own business.
And you didn't even knock over the plant in the background. That's amazing.
The fake one. I figured out I better do that this time. No, it's interesting because I feel like I'm walking in a dual experience lately, because I've had such a lot of awareness, spiritually speaking, about this journey we have here as a human experience isn't all of who we are. So part of me is this mindset, and it's definitely not something I say I can prove it, but it's definitely a feeling I have that we exist beyond this form. Like, human form is just a little bottle we sit in for a period of time, then we leave. And at the same time, there's the emotional connections of people I know on the human level. So I'm finding this duality going on with these two things. And I was watching a video a friend of mine did, Danny and Brinkley did at the Conscious Life Expo, talking about the fact that we never die, in quotes, because we just shed the human form.
Right.
Having said all that, I have dear friends of mine who I've lost as well, from the physical form, because the thing is, we do get physically invested, emotionally invested. That's part of the joy of being in this physical form. So I absolutely agree with you that acknowledging, connecting with people that we spend some of this journey with, even family members we don't want to talk to anymore, but friends especially we've chosen, because that's the part. I mean, Richard Buck's one of my favorite authors. He talks about members of the same family are very rarely born under the same roof. That's from Illusions. And the understanding that we have chosen family that's beyond our blood family. There you go. Yeah. One of my favorite authors. That understanding that a lot of times our chosen family are people we've come close to, become bonded with, become just loved with, that other people we were raised with. And those are the people I think more than ever we need to make sure we do stay in touch with. And part of it is the awareness that life just occupies us, gets us caught up. You know, that thing about the phones is, as we talked about this last week, about smartphones being so many things in it, and we don't use it as a phone. You know, it's a video camera and it's a social media platform and it's all these other things, but we don't actually make phone calls of the damn thing. So using our smartphones to do smart things like calling people would be a good thing to do, because we do find ourselves, I find myself looking at texts or message calls and going, I haven't spoken to that person in 3 years. What's going on? But I see them on Facebook. So there's that sense also that we can get around the fact we're not talking to people because we see their posts on Facebook and we like them. Is that enough to be connected? I don't think so. You know? I'm
just laughing because sometimes I'm like, shit, I'm playing a game on my thing, and I'm like, damn, I got to make a phone call. I need a different. I don't want to make it for this phone.
Need two phones, one for games, one for calling. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No. But that's the thing is that social media for many of us has become, I would suggest, the escape clause, where we basically, as long as we like their posts, we're still connected to them, even when we talk to them in person or by phone or even through Messenger in 5 years. So, you know, we got room to improve.
Yeah,
it really depersonalizes the relationship when everything you're getting from them is through the social media, but that's how a lot of the relationships are. I mean, whole friendships are built on the social media without any real intimate contact, and meaning just one-on-one conversation and stuff.
Right, but I want to flip it the other way though. I've met people on social media who have become friends with afterwards, so it works both ways.
Yes,
it does.
For example, like I've been on Clubhouse app for a couple of years. And we've had in real life meetings with people in our clubhouse like 6 months prior that we happened to be in the same town, or we got together in the same town. And it was like a reunion because we'd met each other on social media, but in person was like a whole other level of connection. So social media can be a great tool when used the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Plenty of Fish, it was called. All right.
I'm surprised you admit that.
I know it was a horrible experience.
Did you ever catch one?
We're not. That's for a different show. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, brother Steve, how you doing?
Steve,
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Missed you the
This
last
is a great subject. Not earlier today, someone asked me what are your favorite words, and without even thinking, I said, "I love you." I say that, and when I say that to people, even though it might just come out like, "Hey, I love you guys," I don't say it just as an expression. I mean it when I say it. It's a word that very few people use. It's a phrase that very few people hold on to and take it with depth and sincerity. And I was never, ever, even since I was a little kid, to tell people that I love them. So that's one of the saving graces for me in my life. I have friends that I'm so close with that I'll just call them up just to tell them, you need to know how much I love you. And I have friends that have done things for me that was so out of the ordinary. When my brother Michael passed away, as you folks know, and we buried him the day before Christmas Eve. There were hundreds of people, students from 50 years ago that he taught, and when he was a superintendent of schools, all these people there honoring him. It was just amazing. But the thing that blew me away, as I'm going through looking at these people honoring my brother, who's walking towards me, but Jeffrey Gittimer, who was one of my closest friends ever. He flew all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina, took a flight to JFK, got a hotel at the airport, called an Uber, took him 2 hours to get to the funeral home. He was walking up to me. I got so emotional. I said, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Sometimes friends have to do what friends need." And that's all he had to say. He stayed the entire time. He had a 6 a.m. flight that morning. He had to get up at 3 a.m. for a business meeting in Charlotte. But he came that way. My point is, that's what love is all about. That's what acknowledging a person's worth is all about. And I think we've gotten so caught up in the shit in life sometimes that we don't say that enough. We don't do it enough. There are people that are in my life right now, and I'm going to say something about Debbie. She's right here. I've never met her in person, but I knew from the moment I saw her, and I've said this to a few people before on Ken Walls' Academy thing, that this is a person I need to connect with. We have connected, and we have and I believe she would say the same thing. We have a special bond that it's unlike anything else I've had with someone that I never met before.
Yeah.
And
you can talk. We can talk about anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I felt about Debbie when I met Debbie too.
Yeah.
We go deep too.
She has that about it, but that's my point. But I let her know all the time, and we have a bantering. Sometimes after we'll talk, we Zoom once a week just to talk, We're creating something now with just the two of us talking. It's like an hour and a half. Yeah. And, every time I say, I love you. And she'll say, no, I love you more. And I said, no, I love you more. And it's like, I get pissed off at her. I fucking said I love you. Now shut up.
I turned my phone off so he can't.
But, I've yeah, really. There's so much in life. And one of the greatest things that you can do is let a person know that you care for them. Mm-hmm. I wasn't there when my mom passed away. She was in a coma, and I was at the hospital, and I had just finished my PBS special, and she was going in and out of this coma that she was in, and I was my mom's favorite out of all the siblings. I hope my brother and sister aren't watching right now, but I think they know that anyway. And I was going to stay, and I had to do this PBS special. We had to we had to edit it. If we didn't do it then, we would have had to wait another year to get it aired. So all the doctors and my family saying, you can go to Chicago, get the thing edited. She's going to be this way for at least another week. I fly to Chicago that next day, 2 a.m. My wife calls me and says she just passed away. I wasn't there. Same thing happened for my father. I had 3,000 people that I was speaking to in Hawaii, and everyone kept saying, he's definitely going to be here for a while. Don't worry about it. As soon as I landed in Hawaii, he passed away. Mm. And now I know there are situations, you could say, and I looked at it from that perspective, but something clicked in me. And when my brother Michael was passing on, and I knew he was dwindling away in the past 2 years, I was with him almost every single day. He lived 7 minutes from me, and that was the blessing in disguise that I took advantage of, because the pandemic hit and all of my bookings were canceled. So at one point I'm saying, oh shit, now everything's canceled and this is bullshit and all that. And then all of a sudden I realized the blessing in disguise was, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have been able to spend all that time with my brother to let him know. And he always knew this because it's in my videos that he's the biggest inspiration of my life. But the real honor is 3 days before he passed away, when he decided he was going to give up and hospice was in his home taking care of him for these last final days. He grabbed me by my arm and there were tears in his eyes, and he doesn't cry often because he's a gung-ho Marine. And he told me that I was the biggest inspiration in his life, that no one in the family ever did anything close to what you did. And you went from being voted least likely to succeed, and you did this and you did that. That's what life is all about. And I mentioned to you guys before the show even aired, you want to know what it's all about. You listen to Garth Brooks' song over and over again, If Tomorrow Never Comes. Because you always say to yourself, oh, they know, I'll let them know some other time. That person can get hit by a car the next day. Mm-hmm. You just don't know, man. Life is filled with uncertainty. I always said the only thing certain in life is uncertainty, because anything could happen. So I make it a point, and when I say to you guys at the end of the show, and we say to each other, I love you, I mean that. Mm-hmm. I mean that. I text you off like I love you guys. And Lynn, you do the same thing. You and I talk occasionally. Yeah,
and I text you and I tell you.
And that's probably the most intense 3 words that you could ever say to someone. And I'll end with this, because it can go the other way. On my birthday last Wednesday, I was celebrating at my favorite restaurant, and I got a message from my younger brother, Rocky, stating that my closest friend in high school passed away. And I said, okay, when is the funeral services? They said he's being laid out at the funeral home. Tonight's the only night. That's the night I was celebrating. I left the bar that I was at, and I went to visit my friend, which was only about 10 minutes away. And I had this feeling of guilt coming over me. And I told Debbie this in our last Zoom meeting, that you were my best friend in high school. We did so much together. He was one of the toughest guys you could ever meet. We drank together. We partied together. He bought me my first drink when I was 16 years old at a bar. And he only lived 7 minutes away from where I live now. And I never saw him. That's the first time I saw him when he was laid out in 50 years. And that bothered me. Mm-hmm. And it bothered me. And I talked to him when I was kneeling, looking at his body being laid out. And I just said to him, I think, and I hope that you know how much I love you. I should have connected with you, but then something else clicked when I explained this to Debbie. Sometimes that's the way life works. Sometimes you have to be a little easy on yourself, because his life went that way. He continued with the party and he continued with that. My life went the other way. I realized I was partying too much. I was doing too much drugs. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. And so we just went in different directions. And even though you think you should be with that person, you have to give yourself some slack too. And I think I was smart enough to realize that, yeah, maybe I should have seen him, but I didn't. But I know he knows how much I cared for him at the time that we were together. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
I love that, Steve. Yeah, we got chapters in our lives, and we all got different people in the chapters.
Yep.
So, yep.
Yeah.
And I think about social media, you could say you're for it and against it, but there's a big flaw with social media. If it's somebody's birthday that you love, what the fuck are you texting them for? Pick up the phone and call them.
Or send them a video.
Call them. Just call them. Let them hear your voice.
Yes. Agreed. Hey, Debbie.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Love you, Debbie.
Hey, I love you guys, and I mean it. You know, I really think that is a very intense quote or a very intense statement. I love you. And a lot of people that you give it to aren't necessarily sure how to receive it. Sometimes it's awkward according to how you've been raised, what you're used to. So I think that sometimes that keeps us knowing that it might be an awkward thing. It may keep some of us from expressing the way we feel or giving compliments to someone or whatever about how they've impacted our lives. But I guess for me, I don't want to wait and tell somebody later or take the chance of us never being able to be together again. And if I have a compliment I want to throw out, or if I want to tell somebody how I feel, I typically do it right away. And I mean, just as an example, my daughter isn't natured a lot like me, and she thinks it's awkward sometimes, the things I might say to people, and I don't care who's around. If I mean it, I'm going to say it. But I think the older she gets, the more she understands that life is not ever guaranteed. And even if we were going to live forever, why are we holding back telling someone how impactful they are in our lives? I mean, like, we don't have to wait to say it. Just tell someone. That's the way I feel about it. I really do. I can honestly say I don't have any regrets of people that I've lost. Because I always say it in the moment, or every time I'm with someone, that I love them, or gosh, I love that you taught me this. You've taught me so much. I've learned through you. But I will say that there's a lot of friendships that I don't stay in touch with. I have a lot of friends I do stay in touch with, but I have a lot of people from my past that I deeply care about that I don't really see or talk to anymore. But where I differ with what each of you have said thus far is, to me, being able to see these friends and their families growing up on social media makes me feel like at least there's some part that I get to share with them, even though we don't live close, or, it's going to be very difficult in all of our busy lives to travel to one another, or we may not have that close of a relationship, but I might care enough. I want to know, how you doing? How's your family? And then there have been times where I haven't seen someone for a long time, but I know them very well, but I don't know their kids, but I feel like I do. And I scare them because I'm like, oh my God, you got so big. They're like, lady, I don't know you, but I know you from social media because I see you on the Facebook. But anyway, so I like social media for the purpose of being able to, even if it's just not picking up the phone and talking, I think something is better than nothing. And to keep a little bit of that fire burning of a relationship, so that if you do have the opportunity to be together again in person, you have a little bit of knowing of what they have going on in their lives. So I like it. I think it's great. And I am guilty of shooting a text and not actually picking up the phone and talking to someone. I'm going to rethink that, Steve Rizzo. And Barry Selby, I think you said that too. Maybe, it is more bonding and loving to get a call.
You send me videos and I'm like calling you. I'm like, I want to hear the voice. I got it.
Yeah. So anyway, but I appreciate what everyone has said. And I guess, the only other thing I want to say is, when there's family members or friendships that are discombobulated or not, and I think Barry touched on this a little bit, where family members may be at a distance or not getting along and decide they're stubborn and they don't want to come together, friendships, family, whatever. Maybe just be the person that can say, it's fine if, we're not going to, we'll just agree to disagree. And we may not have a loving relationship where we see each other all the time, but I want you to know I care about you. And then that way, at least you're not going to have any regret of, I wish I would have at least just said, I care about you. I love you. and then whatever happens, happens. So I guess we got to take a little bit of that stubbornness out to mend things. If for no other reason, just so you know you did what you could. And that's it. That's all I have
I
to say.
agree.
Yeah.
Love you,
Absolutely.
Debbie, so much.
Good point.
You know, and we're talking about not strangers here, but we're talking about people we're separated from somewhat, or that we spent time away from and we're not contacting them. One of the things that I found, and this is just for me, is that in my practice of kind of separating myself from people who aren't right in front of me and not expressing to them or talking to them, that starts to carry over to the people who are right in front of me, and I start to forget to say things to them. It's not just about, my old high school buddy, I forgot to tell him how much he means to me, or even make an attempt to stay in touch. Then it becomes, did I even speak to my girlfriend this morning when I left the house? Did I even acknowledge her? Did I do that? And so this practice, it can slide into the here and now, as well as people who are separated from us. So for me, I mean, and that's not the case for everybody. It's just for me personally. It's important that I do a better job and stay connected with people who are not in my purview, so that I can make sure that the people who are in front of me, I'm giving them the best of me as well.
Good. Yeah.
Rex?
And before that, I want to acknowledge Scott's mom's here. I love you, Mom. And Mindy's been commenting a lot too. Thank you, Mindy.
Thanks.
So
that is my mom who's watching. So everybody be nice to me.
I love you, Mommy.
Oh, who wouldn't be nice
her.
to you, Scott?
Oh, she's so sweet. And look at Rex is pointing at Scott.
I thought Rex was giving me the finger.
He gave me two. He gave me two.
You did good, Mom. You did good, Mom.
Yes, and I love Rex so much. I love him so much and appreciate him.
And I will
so
say,
much.
my mom is my hero. She's got over 43 years in recovery. She spends as much time helping others as more time than I even do. She's been an inspiration for me. She's one who started me painting. It was her art that started me painting.
Oh, wow.
It was her singing music when I was a kid that got me into singing and playing music. So
she
has been my inspiration. So thank you, Mom. I appreciate it.
That's awesome, Sandy. Thank you.
I can't wait to see her this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. So
anyway,
go ahead, Rex.
Well, clearly the apple hadn't fallen far from the tree.
That's right.
Talented mom.
Neither do the nuts.
There you go.
That's another show.
A good thing. So, at one time in my life, I was in love with an older woman, and she moved away. And she was 5, and I was 4. She sent a postcard. She moved to Florida, and she sent this postcard that said, blah, 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 blah. Here we are in Florida. This is great. Looking forward to hearing from you, and didn't include a return address.
And you kept that ever since?
I have it, yeah. But I mean, this was when she was 6 and I was now 5. So we tried to track her down, and at that time, there wasn't internet or anything. There was no way to do it. She either they did send another message, but if they did, we never received it. And if they didn't, they went, well, screw him, he's not responding. But they didn't include an address, and I think that has probably governed a lot of my the way I view friendships. When living primarily in Hollywood, sometimes I would move to another area, or I would get involved in a project and I wouldn't see people for a long time, sometimes years. It's like we were inseparable, we were tight, we were together. And then suddenly, like 5 years have gone by, and I'm like, well, I haven't seen this person in 5 years. What happened? But I seek them out. I constantly go back and try and find friends and connect and communicate with people. I've traveled the world, and, as a kid and things like that, I'd be in Portugal or somewhere, and I'd sit down in a coffee shop with some kid or some adult and be talking. And then oftentimes I would say, well, I want your address, because I wanted to be able to write them or connect. And the people that I miss most are the people I didn't ask an address for. I always go, whatever happened to that person? I wonder how they finished up, what became of them. I have no way of knowing. But I would get, at that time, years ago, I would get letters from all around the world of people I met who, they were teenager lifeguards, and then they, had gone and graduated from college and just said, well, I wanted to update you. That doesn't happen as frequently today, except through social media, where we reconnect or connect because of social media or find each other. But I'm always looking for old friends on social media. If I've got a moment, I go into the search bar and I type in names and go, is that them? Is that them? I send, emails or letters. If someone pops up into my mind, I try and I figure there's a point at which today I texted somebody. I didn't know what I got to be honest. I didn't know what the topic of the show was. I texted somebody today, said, I really miss you. I love you. It's been a long time. And, hope your grandkids and your great grandkids are fantastic. And they wrote back and said, I miss you too. Is, how far we go back. And my grandson hasn't given me a grandkid yet, that kind of thing. He's only 10, but we're hoping. And, at the appropriate time. But the point is that, social media is both a blessing and a curse. Email is the worst thing that's ever happened to the planet in some ways and the best thing in others. We're so inundated or this deluge of mail that, you can have a newsletter to stay in contact with people and they don't open them. They don't click on things. They don't want it. They don't care because you're one of 6 million other contacts who are contacting them, usually trying to separate them from their money. And so sometimes our emails, even the personal emails, get lost in that. I personally hate texting. Texting should only be used if you're at a concert or a fair and you want to leave and you go, hey, meet me at the gate so we can get out of here. Or it's too loud and you have to go, look, I'm going to the bathroom. I'll see you back here. You don't text to communicate. You don't text to share your life story. That should be face-to-face, or it should be, the next best thing might be Zoom or the phone. But, and my kids are like, they grew up texting, so they're kind of like, Dad, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, don't text me. I can't tell you how many times people who work for me or I work with will text me something. I say, great, okay, call me. And then they text me back. And then I say, okay, that's good, call me. And then they text me back again. I'm like, don't stop texting. Just stop texting me. And they go, okay, I'll stop texting you. And then they text me again. And I'm like, just please stop. I hate texting.
I know people that say, if you're going to call me, text me first.
Yes.
Text me to see if it's okay if I can call them.
Well, here's the amazing thing is, you can't text and drive. And in Los Angeles, they always say, text me before you call or text me when you're on your way. You're like, oh, so you want me to break the law in order to let you know that I'm not away from you? No, thank you. I prefer in this day and age just to show up and go, surprise, and let them deal with it.
Yeah, that's a good way to get shot.
Well, it depends on who you're visiting, but
yeah.
I really want to try and stay in touch with people, and I've lost contact with lots of people, and I miss them, and I like to find them, and and the other thing is you can't expect other people to maybe feel the same way about you. I texted another friend a few days back and said, I love you. He's a filmmaker. I said, I love your movies. I love you. I love being your friend. Thank you so much. And 2 or 3 days later, I get a text back from him. What's amazing? I'm going to show you a complete segue here. I went to the store to buy food for the dogs. I buy them raw meat and then I make them food. And so the guy said, would you like a bone for your dogs? And I was like, yeah, sure. So he gave me 1 bone. I thought he'd be giving me 2. But they've been sharing the bone. I give it to Sasha. Sasha chews on it for like an hour, and then I give it to Bailey, and she chews on it. They don't fight over it. They don't do anything. They just go back and forth. So Bailey just was chirping. She's given up her bone to Sasha, and I guess let me know that she's given it up. But they're amazing. They're better behaved than most humans are.
Well, no, I know. Just like since my mom's dog passed away, this one doesn't know what to do. He's just so lost without his sister. So, anyways, but yep, they're part of the family.
But wait, Rex. So you got to finish the story. So you sent this text, and a couple days later, you get a response.
And he texted back, said, "Oh, I love you too." That kind of thing. Oh. But there are plenty of times when I use social media in this way. If I know that somebody's got a special thing or something, or I try and do it with their birthdays, and I don't always make a long personal message, but I try and make it a little bit different than the traditional happy birthday. I might say it twice or 3 times or put their name or whatever, but I try and acknowledge something. Or if they have special events, I tend to like or try and comment on their posts and things to let them know that I'm there to support them. I don't always get that back. There are people who I just, I'm like their raving fan, but they're not my raving fan, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not doing it so that they're doing it. I'm doing it because I want to let them know how I feel about them.
And that's a good lesson. That is powerful. That's the thing. You're doing it without expectations of what you're going to get back because this is what you feel. That's huge.
Absolutely.
That's the gift within itself. That's the
Yeah.
painter. Yeah.
And that's why I'm glad we're talking about this tonight, is because, if we've all shared, a little bit of loss and a little bit of regret, and and if we bring that to the forefront, we still have a chance to be mindful with the people we do love and appreciate, and sending me even a thank you, or I'm thinking of you. I haven't done those in about a year, and I've got to get into just handwriting notes too, notes and just talking to people. And it's important to do, so that you at least have no regrets, and we haven't even gotten to talk lately on the phone, Rex, and I know I want to do that here soon before I get to see you. So it's important to do these things.
Absolutely.
I think there's a big part. We get so darn busy with everything that's going on that we don't unlearn anything. We've all learned how important this is, and we all have the basic knowledge that when somebody receives a compliment, they more than likely accept it and enjoy it. We haven't forgotten that happens. We just get mired in our own stuff for a period of time, and that's why shows, I think, like this are really important to do that. I mean, when I was speaking a lot, you're so busy you didn't necessarily have time to comment on other people's stuff. And then all of a sudden you get off the road, and I would put posts, somebody be announcing that they're doing a training at this place or speaking at that place, and my comment very consistently is, the crowd will be blessed by your genius. And all of a sudden somebody fired me a private note back and said, "What do you mean by that?" And I said, exactly what I meant. They'll be blessed by your genius. You're an amazing presenter. They will be honored to have heard from you. So there's no angle to that? Why would there be an angle? The only thing I'm trying to do is encourage you to keep on going, dude. I said it last night in my community. I said, there was a time, not all that long ago, 150 flights a year was not unusual, doing all the different events and everything I was doing. March 2nd will be 3 years since I've been on an airplane.
Wow.
And I went, oh my God, that is so awesome. And everybody else is sitting there going, well, don't you want to get? No, I don't. I don't necessarily want to get back on airplanes. I'd rather do closer events or a variety of different things. Now, I love being around people. And that was something we talked about in our group last night, is one of our folks said, she said, you know what I've recognized since the pandemic has ended? We've got a new pandemic of fear, because people are now face to face with people again. And they're now concerned about how the weight they've gained over the pandemic, how they don't have the right clothes, how they don't know if there's, they're not used to talking to people face to face anymore. And it became a really interesting discussion last night.
I missed it.
It is amazing. It's the propensity of human beings to create problems where there are none.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
to somehow look at something and go, well, now I'm overweight, or I don't have the clothes. It is amazing, and yet we do that. We truly do that.
I need to correct this real quick. It's actually two hips.
We got Scott ZZ hips now.
The hips are what count.
Scotty Z.
That's Scotty Z. I like that. That's a good one. Yeah,
that's a good one. I'll take that.
A lot of
you know this. I believe a lot of you know this. You know that when I got divorced, I decided to rein in everything and stop going around the world and stop traveling and doing everything, so that I could be a stay-at-home dad and raise my children, and still work and do things, from my house or do some corporate consulting. But I left the public eye in order to raise my children, because that was what was important to me. But at the same time, I'm used to training and speaking and facilitating and doing lots of different kinds of programs. But I've done them, but I've never been a fan of being on a big stage. I've been in stadiums where there have been 20 or 30,000 people, and I've been able to talk. I always wanted, something like less than 50 people in a program, And so we had a 100-acre retreat center so that people could come in. They came in from all around the world. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. We sat up after the program ended at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. We sat up till 2 or 3 in the morning. I got up at 4 or 5 in the morning, did what I needed to do, met them for breakfast, and we started all over again. Because it was the relationships that were important. And the one thing I realized about being a trainer or speaker is people fly all around the world, regardless of whether I was working for myself or other people, to rub elbows, with the trainer or the author or the speaker. So I always wanted to be as available and present as possible, whereas some people would do their thing and then run backstage and run off and party with their friends. It's about the relationships. It is about the human contact. It's about the connection. And if you can't maintain your friendships with your friends, how do you ever expect to maintain friendships in a business setting? Because you either walk your talk and you love what you do and you love the people that you get to be involved with, or you don't. And I don't think that, I think most people can tell either consciously or unconsciously whether or not someone's heart's invested in the other person or not, and I always try to tell people, if their interests are in your heart, they somehow will get that. But if your interests are what you're trying to do when you're communicating with them, well, they'll get that too.
100%.
So
I think that's one of the, Rick's, what you were saying is so true. It's one of the differences being both a speaker and a trainer.
Right.
Speaking is wonderful. You're a rock star. You get up on stage. Thank you, Detroit. It's awesome. Right. But training is a lifelong relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, I have people that I got a message from a couple of weeks ago from a training I did April 1st and 2nd, 2004.
No joke.
I used the information that you taught us that weekend to close the biggest deal of my life. It's when you train, it's that true exchange of heart to allow them to accomplish what they really want to accomplish. The speaking is fun. It's a blast.
Well,
you can have some effect.
I would add to that, and I in terms of, I think I know where you're going, but I would add, people don't really want the information that you get from speaking. They don't want the information you get from training. They want the experience that you give them.
Yeah.
They want to have an experience of you, of the material, of a life change and things like that. And if they get that with you, then they will. I mean, they'll write, they'll contact, they'll stay in touch, for decades afterwards. And go back and go, hey, back in the 90s or back in the 80s or in 2004, you helped me. Here's what I've always told people. I go, if you want to tell me, because my thinking is I'm like a quarterback, not the star of the team, but I pass the ball or I lateral the ball or I give the ball away so that the other person can score or attempt to score, is the way I think about my role in training or facilitating something. Help them to score. So if they write me and say, using the stuff that you taught me, I did this, I'm like, fantastic. If they go, Rex, you changed my life, I'm going, no, you got to own it. I didn't do anything. I'm sitting here, in my home and you're out making it happen. So take the full credit that you used something maybe I shared with you, but own it.
Yeah. We don't change people's lives. We are the spark that can ignite the change.
Exactly.
We give them the strategies, the tools to turn their lives around. It's up to them as to whether they use it or not. And I think the greatest thing that I have to offer when I speak to people, I knew I was always funny. That captivated the audience. I always knew I was good at telling stories. But in the past 5 years, 7 years is when I became very vulnerable and wasn't afraid to tell them what I went through and what I'm still going through. Because that's how they really learn, when they know, again, we're coming from this part, which is what we've been talking about the whole time. The I love you part. This is what I know, what I learned, and I'm coming from my heart, from my story, to tell you that you could turn your life around too. It's acknowledging who you are and just letting people know how much you care about them.
And the thing is,
Absolutely.
On that note, I've spent many times in the participants chair in many seminars over the last 40 years. And the people that stand out for me are the people I did processes with, because we bonded in those moments.
Yeah.
And as you said, Steve, who basically didn't just spout the material, but they connected with their truth. And so when I felt their presence in the room, it's like, then I know that person's real. Because there are many talking heads out there who do a great spiel, have great scripts and do wonderful things. but it's repeat. And I was learning how to facilitate some of the seminars at one point, and I really felt myself shifting from, okay, I can remember the words, so I can connect to the audience. And that was the big shift for me, or the transformation. It's what I love doing, this work I'm doing with clients. I'm actually working on group programs now because, frankly, one-on-one isn't enough. Right. I want to connect with more people. And I think what you said, Rex, is right about that smaller group size, somewhere between 20, 30, 40 people. That's when the juice happens for me.
And I mean,
I'm in a coaching program now where I'm one of the participants, and we're really bonding as the participants because we're family. Again, chosen family. So I love that chance to do that.
Yeah, and a lot of people, when they're trying to evaluate should they do a program, they don't think about the relationships of the people they'll connect with when they do their dyads and triads and the different exercises and sharing meals. Am I going to get my money's worth from the material that the person is presenting? But it's about the experience and the connections and the relationships that you can have for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
it's probably rarely about what was presented from stage. It's almost all the experiential learning that went on by being with the people there. It's phenomenal.
Well, what's amazing with what we do for a living is that I know, and I will not mention any names, but I know a lot of speakers who are doing very well. And then when we're together and we're talking about our lives and our past, and they have a past that's went through a lot of stuff. And I say, well, why don't you express that on the platform? Oh, I don't want people to know that part of me. I said, you got to be kidding me. That's your job, to tell them that part of you. And they said, well, how would that help? I said, because if you're telling them that you had a cocaine addiction for a great part of your life and it was consuming you and you lost your family as a result and you turned it around, those people who are sitting in the audience who are having a similar problem, looking at you as the big success story, and you're not telling that story, if you did tell it, they could be going, wow, he went through that crap and there's hope for me then. If he can do it, so can I. But if you're not willing to express that part of yourself, you're devaluating who you are, and you're cheating them from giving them what could really help them to move forward with their lives.
Absolutely.
And again, that's why we started this show, is because and all the perceptions and all the wisdom and all the knowledge that we have on this stage. I mean, all of you guys are not just the one and done taking a course and you've been, selling a course and teaching the same stuff, but all of you guys have learned from many places and have given. And that's why, as a coach myself, I just I backed up from that because I wanted to know more and learn more, because coaching is a one-on-one kind of deal, and if you're going to be a coach, you got to have a coach and that kind of stuff. And I've got mentors on this right here in front of me, and I'm just grateful that we had this time today. I'm going to give it to Scott for us to wrap it up because we got about 8 minutes left, but you guys are on point, and I love you so much, you guys. This has been great. Go ahead, Scott.
I love everything you guys were talking about with the trainings and everything else. And one of the things that I enjoy most about training is just the give the people the what if. What if what we're doing now doesn't work? And what if we had to try something different? And what would that look like for you? And connecting people with things. And Steve, I agree with you 1,000%. If people aren't willing to share their own vulnerabilities, how do you expect people not to be ashamed of themselves? It's like, hey, you got to go out there and you got to talk about this stuff, but no, I'm not going to talk about mine because that would make me one of you, and I don't want to do that. It's ridiculous. Making those connections with people, you're right, and those connections stay forever. We get calls from people, and we're connected with people that we trained 3, 4, 5 years ago when we first started out. And as much as our training has grown, and plus the fact we write our own material, we write our own stuff, it's our creation. And when you do your own creation, it means a little something more than if you're just trying to copy somebody else. There's a lot of people out there just pulling the copy jobs. I'm just gonna, hey, that sounded good over there, I'll just say this over here and make this work. But the one thing, and let me tell you about this communication thing, this is huge for me in my life. Being disconnected from most of the people in my life for most of my life, for 2 reasons. One is because I was in my addiction, and 2, because I was living a life that wasn't mine. I was trying to pretend to be somebody that I wasn't. And when you're trying to pretend to be somebody, you can't connect with people. And I not only lost connections with childhood friends, with people along the path, with people who were right in front of me. I lost connections with my children. I lost connection with my wives. I lost connection with, they weren't all at the same time, the wives, they were different times. But I lost connections. And because I was not being genuine. And it was so incongruent because my whole life, all I wanted to do was be a good guy and help people. But I could not be honest with people, and I could not put myself out there. Part of putting yourself out there is to tell people how you feel about them. Yes, I love you. Yes, I care about you. Yes, I miss you. Things like that. Things I was not capable of years ago. And now I have to live by those things, because if I want to be congruent in what I do, I have to be congruent in who I am. And that means telling people I love them, expressing myself, and sharing my truth. So,
Scott,
all the people I left behind, I miss you. I do.
Yeah.
And I'm making my efforts now to make a lot of changes to the things that I've missed in the past. Who was saying something?
Scott,
What?
I love you.
I love you too.
Oh, geez, here we go with the
Oh,
mushy
yeah.
crap again there, huh?
Yeah.
I love every one of you guys. And it's amazing. Love is an amazing thing. I mean, we love people there's just so many different kinds of love. And that's the great thing about love, is that there's just enough different definitions of what a person means to you. And you fill all that up, and your cup runs it over. And I just love that.
Love is a many splendored thing.
And your mama
Really,
says she loves it. She's
I got to write that down. That sounds good.
Yeah, write that down. Create some music or something around that.
Yeah, I should.
There you go.
Oh, thanks,
I
Mom.
want to share a quick story just about timing, because the thing is, I've volunteered with my local radio station for 25 years. I'm going to be quick. I know I've got a short bit of time left. But the thing is, we volunteered a lot. There are a lot of people who run the pledge drives twice a year. It's like, public radio station. One of the people in our group passed away. It's about 5 years ago now. And we all came together for a memorial. Now, we hadn't seen each other in about 4 or 5 years at this point. But it was like a reunion of old friends, and we really loved each other, and we would stay in touch. And frankly, we haven't very much.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2 weeks ago, another one of our friends passed away. So we're going to have another memorial coming up in March. So I want to make sure that when we have to get together, we're going to stay connected this time. So we get second chances in a way, but you got to grab them. So stay connected.
Yes, and that was my point of this whole show, is that we see time over time how the world gets busier, but take a little time to just do those little things, because the regrets get bigger and they feel them deeper when you don't.
And I would add to what Steve said, because I earlier said, I texted a couple of friends, but I oftentimes pick up the phone and I do call them, and I just leave them a message if I don't reach, and they either call me back or they don't, you know what I mean? But it is a way of letting other people know, hey, you're on my heart, you're on my mind, I've been thinking about you, I hope you're doing fabulous, what's going on, catch me up if you can, or whatever. And just a way of letting them know how important they are to you, as opposed to, just waiting until it's too late.
That could make that kind of a message on phone could make your whole day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It could take you from here all the way to here. It really can. It's that easy and that powerful.
And that important. It's important to see people to know they're loved. I think that's one thing that makes me sad of people that do take their lives. They sometimes feel like they didn't make no difference and nobody knows that they even exist. And I guarantee there's been people that have changed their life because somebody did reach out to them and tell them, hey, I love you and appreciate you and you've changed my life. There has been those stories where people have turned their life around because they realized they did matter. They did have an impact.
Everybody sing it now.
Hey, Ricky.
All you need is love.
Wait. Let me get my guitar. Let's get going.
Yeah. Let's close it out with the song.
All you need is love. Love is all you need.
There you go.
Aww. You guys, this has been an awesome show, as always.
That was Steve Rizzo, the fifth Beatle. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. I'll take that. Thank you very much. That's
Actually
the song at the end of my book, Conversations with Bob. That's what the whole last chapter was about. The L
and
word.
Bob became a Beatle.
They all became a Beatle. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves. I hope we pass the audition.
Great.
Well, again,
I'm grateful for you guys. I always want you to know what a great platform. I'm so blessed to have you guys in my life. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I'll probably say it again next week. Same time, same place.
Yeah.
I'm truly
It's an
blessed
honor
and
to be
loved.
part of this every week. It truly
Yes.
is. It's a lot,
It
of,
is.
a lot of fun.
Love got to do.
Well, love you guys. Well, Scott, I think this is a wrap. What do you think?
This is a wrap. This is another great show.
But I love you guys so much. I don't want to leave.
Well, then
Again,
stay in the back. Debbie's got the champagne and mints in the back.
Popping
That's right.
champs.
And hey,
Barry,
tomorrow,
Rex, Scotty Z, Steve,
yeah,
all of you guys. You guys
Debbie
are
is gonna
rock
have-
stars, and I love you all. Thank you.
Debbie's going to be doing a show tomorrow with Ori's Stories on Find It. So don't miss that. I'll be producing that show tomorrow. So
Yeah.
look forward
Great.
to that.
Get ready for the
And,
F-bomb. Get ready for the
Oh,
F-bomb.
you
on that
know
show.
it. There's
Yep.
no doubt.
Oh, are
What
we
does
live?
that mean? What the fuck you talking about?
I just hope he knows he's live tomorrow.
Yes.
No, just kidding.
Remember, you guys remember when Ori was on with us?
Yeah.
And he was talking
We
about
were live?
actors and
We
producers.
were live when we
calling
were
him.
doing that?
Yeah.
He's like, I thought this was a Zoom.
So
He's
as-
got it right. If with him, it's a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective, it's everything.
It's a comma. It's a
When-
comma.
It's a comma.
That's the way it was in my family. My family. You're at the dinner table. My father would go, pass the fucking salt.
What'd you say, Rex?
That's normal growing up in LA. Everything is up in this and up in that and pass this all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, when you're talking to Ori tomorrow, throw him a curveball and go, I understand you fired Rex Sikes on the air.
That's
Oh,
right.
I will.
That's
I
right.
will. On the air?
Yeah, that's
We were doing a group thing and he got mad at me for something. He goes, you're fired.
He probably didn't know he was live.
Huh?
You're
You're
lucky.
lucky.
That
He didn't
fucking
know
guy?
he was
Yeah, that
You're lucky
fucking
he
guy.
didn't-
Yeah.
You're lucky he didn't put a hit on you.
Well, I mean, we're friends. We love each other, but you fired me on the air. And I said, well, then I'm taking the air. I said,
Gosh.
Should have
All right,
whacked the
you guys.
bastard.
See
All
you.
right.
all right, you guys. Love you so
get
much.
fired by a mobster.
See you
Bye,
next week.
everybody. I
Bye.
gotta go.
Bye, guys. Have a great
Bye.
night.
Love you guys.
Bye,
Remember
guys.
to tell somebody
Wow, that's
today
a
you
crock of
love
shit.
them. Okay,
Peace
bye.
out.
keeping me safe and sound.